Shil Yachad Nuwabakedi Waloi Ma'urwo, the pledge of the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors. Ama Kakdemu Sefunut Hade Gedash Manuf, as I stand beneath our sacred and holy flag. Kanderu Ruki Maul Te Kehikano, Ama Kashgeru Zitaur, I vow to be loyal, obedient as I watch it fly. Ru Ganunwu Shil Manut Naunut, Faref Nawus Weloinut, to the laws of our Constitution that govern our nation. Ru Hare Sabu Kahmelu Tubusumhem, to this cause I hold my head up high. Akara Garur Kantero Ruharus Hade Tahum, with pride I pledge to protect and defend. Kalu Akara Hare Walao Weloy, Kalu Hanuf Hade Samur, all within this great nation, both family and friend. Ru Yankud Faref Karetkut Mu Adorhut Agoyu, to ensure all has their equal rights. Ruhare Sabu Kazur Gedu Atnachum, to this cause I will lay down my very life. Ama Kapdemu Tachuth Haresan Un Hade Gedash Danun, as I stand beneath this sacred and holy seal. Kanderu Nafusum Mewa Chelas Hade Kazut Menu Yat Mewikanu Akara Khera. I vow myself loyal, sincere, and vow integrity with zeal.
So sitting next to you, or sitting behind you or front, so sitting next to you might be sitting next to Black Devil.
It states in Psalms chapter 82, verse 6, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High.
This is the elder Raziel with a message for the children of the Elohim. I walked a long journey on the short path, where after this non-mind, this mind expands math itself. Came through with a teacher. Get wealth for what I have to teach you. Not a preacher, the Amunnubi created this creature, fully packed with features. Nuwabu knocking off bleachers. Peace to Malachi, Rit Nalej Radio. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, respect and pay homage. From the Amunnubi tribe, we hope to see you. We still kicking the flows. All the girls know. Just listen to show, so your mind.
What up to everybody on Facebook Live? This is Brother Ruakhtah.
Whoever was chosen by deception to sell out Negro, the greatest destruction, without question.
Out here in Tracy, California, in the truck,
half stepping to a greater direction.
All right, Rit Nalej Radio with your brother Ruakhtah Hedokayu. And today is the 5th month, or the 5th day of the 12th month, the month of Heru on your Nuwabian calendar. So mark that in. And I think the Gregorian date is, I think it's March 10th. Yeah, it's March 10th. It's Sunday night here in Tracy, California. Welcome everybody to the show. This is show number 50. And we're going to talk about the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, who taught us Nuwabu, right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, which leads to sound right reasoning. You should know that, all right? So let's get into the topic we want to talk about today. Now, here in my hand, I got the man from Planet RIZQ, and we're going to go through the introduction and a couple of the questions that he had about his reincarnation as Yanun. I think it's pretty imperative that Nuwabians and Moors in general, you know, should listen to this, because this is, I feel like it's pretty profound information for the nation. So let me just read this, all right? Let me get the light right, you know what I'm saying? So this is from the man from Planet RIZQ. This man has been known to us by many names, yet they all bear the same meaning, but merely different languages. He was known to us as Imam Isa and Isa Abdullah ibn Bakr, as well as Al-Hadi al-Mati, then Rabbuni Yeshua. He was called Amunnubi Ruakhtah, even Dr. York, and now we know him as Dr. Malachi or Malachi Zadok York. He tells us his galactic name is Yanun, and that he in ancient times was simply called Marduk, Michael, or Melchizedek. He taught us that he would change the names when his popularity here began to grow to such a point with the media that they would want to bring him to the public, and he would receive countless letters requesting him to go public. When various newspapers and magazines sought articles to get into his personal life, he'd merely laugh and say, "All eyes shall behold me, just look for a Dr. York poster." But taking him more seriously, everyone from his mother to his best friends would tell you, "There's something different about this man." All would say, "I can't put a finger on it." Over the years, there's been 2 volumes of books circulating on his miracles, titled The Man of Miracles in This Day and Time, Part 1 and 2, Edition 138, and over 360 books that has been written since 1967. He's covered every subject under and now above the sun for the past 25 years. He has reached people by different mediums, such as videos, music, books, magazines, and newspapers that have been published in different languages so that everyone would be able to receive the facts and truth. Tapes of his lectures called True Light have been broadcasted in different states all over the country. His teachings have circulated all over the world. Even the so-called greatest debaters have avoided him because they know, although they won't admit it, he has facts and is a force to be reckoned with. However, they will do everything in their power to suppress him. What they will do is use his teachings, or as the young generation would say, biting. I think this was written probably like in 91, 92, 93, the early 90s. Many people are coming along using his format or style of writing. All of his prediction that he gave to us as far back as 1970 were eventually going to happen, have indeed manifested. He taught us religion on the highest level than ever before, and now has come the time, as he said, to break the spell. Y'all know the spell of King Gu, right? He taught us about the Matrix, Egyptology. Satan, or what many people call the devil, is a group of beings and not just one individual, as you have been led to believe. He taught us about the vortex, extraterrestrials, and other galaxies. Never before had this information been published, and now information has been popping up all over the place. Now, there were many people that have tried to attribute titles to him. He's been called Christ, a prophet, an apostle, the Mahdi, and many other things. Louis Farrakhan called him the Messiah. But let's continue, all of which he denies. He has written an entire book on this topic titled I Don't Claim to Be, edition number 116, where he has made clear time and time again of who he is not. So he sat down on the subject of who and what and where he came from, and this is what he said, believe it or not. So now to get into the questions about the man from planet RIZQ, Yanun, Dr. York. Question, just who are you? Who are you, man? Master Teacher, Dr. York, who are you? Answer, to understand who and what I am, you'll have to first understand who and what you are. And that class begins with understanding your genetics. So let's get into the genetics. Did you know your DNA, I try to pronounce this, deoxyribonucleic acid, your blueprint of your genetic makeup. You have tiny explosions that go off at different stages in your life. Just like you do as a child, your DNA explodes, letting you automatically know milk and food. How does a child know to lean toward the breast when they are being held in a certain way? How does a child know to reject synthetic milk over breast milk, which is natural, right? How does a child learn to cry? How does a child know that crying gets attention and what he or she wants? How does a child know how to smile? I will tell you how. All of these things come to you at a young age. Children learn these things naturally. It is all pre-encoded in your genes. You are naturally infatuated by lights and flashes, loud noises, and bright colors. So if you dangle bright lights in front of a child, the child will stop and gravitate toward the bright colors. If you were to turn on a television, the child would rather look at the commercial instead of a movie that may no longer grab their attention as fast as a commercial. Do a test. If you take out a $100 bill and a shiny dime, you will see that a child leans more toward the shiny coin rather than the $100 bill, which is worth more. That means greed was not encoded in your genes like the Catholic Church says that you were born in sin. You are attracted to the glitter. Reaching for glitter introduces naiveness, which eliminates the presence of the devil. There is a certain amount of innocence in the glitter. There is a certain amount of inquiry in the mind. Therefore, it is encoded in your genes to go off at a certain time to be infatuated by glitter. It is encoded in your genes to have a vivid imagination. Then after that, it's encoded in your genes to have a vague imagination. Why do I say vivid first and vague second? Because a child does know Soyalac, Enfamil, or Prosobi from each other. And then the child knows the difference between artificial milk from his mother's milk. The child recognizes taste. It is able to make that decision. A child will reject synthetics. First, the child is vivid. A child knows his or her parents. That is why when other people than the parents pick them up, the child begins to cry and reject that person. A child has to be taught how to become vague. Once the principle of vividness and vagueness manifest in the genes, will is born, willpower. You know, the master teacher is going to get into willpower now, right? So the second question, you said that once the principle of vividness and vagueness manifests in the genes, will is born. What do you mean by this? Answer: will is the mental faculty by which one deliberately chooses or decides on a course of action. An example of exercising this faculty is a deliberate decision, conclusion, or choice. Will itself is undecided, right? So your will could be positive or negative, and it's not the actual decision. It's really the process to get to the decision. Therefore, it's not the finish line, it's the track that you take to the finish line, right? Because someone could have a weak will, you know, and can't make a decision. Somebody else got to make a decision for them, you know, and that could get into like wage slavery and things like that. But let's continue on there. I just wanted to add on. Will itself is undecided. In abstraction, it is ought and not, good and evil, positive and negative. Yin, the positive feminine principle in Chinese Taoist dualistic philosophy, good and the God and the devil, angels and demons, until someone or something defeats one or the other of the opposition forces, right? So he's kind of saying it's the yin and the yang, good and evil, God and the devil. But if you look at it a linear line, you got God over here and the devil, then the will is somewhere in between, and it must decide which way to move. It's kind of like having the devil on your right shoulder, like you see in movies, and having the angel, the good angel, the seraphim, on the left shoulder, and both of them are talking to you, but you can only listen to one. Whatever one that you listen to, that's your will. So you have a good or you have a bad will, positive or negative, right? So will is a factor in something as simple and common as deciding to move your hand. First you think it, I want to move my hand. A war rages inside of you, then you either do it or change your mind. Your will can also determine whether you want to live or not. You know, the doctors will tell you when you're really messed up in the hospital, you gotta really want to live. Master Teacher had a video audio about talking about Jimmy Swaggart and one of the nuns, one of the most famous nuns, like they said Jimmy Swaggart had a couple heart attacks. He wanted to live. He didn't want to go see God, right? The Pope got the Pope mobile with bulletproof glass around it. He really don't want to see God, right? But Master Teacher said he's supposed to be God's homie, his like right-hand man. What if you get hit with a bullet, you just gonna go see God? Not a problem. Pope ain't trying to see God, okay? All right, inshallah. Yeah, whether you want to live or not, as you fight within your soul to make a choice, will is not good or evil, it is undecided, an abstraction until someone or something exercises one or the other of the opposing forces, good or evil. In other words, will is to do what one chooses, to have one's way, to see fit to one's own thinking. You were born with 360 degrees of knowledge inside of you, 180 degrees of positive and attracting or pulling force, and 180 degrees of negative, a repelling or pushing force. So it's not negative as far as bad, not good, just negative as far as pushing or pulling force. So it says a pulling force is positive, attracting or pulling. Repelling or pushing away is negative, right? So I'm not talking about good or bad. Not as in good or bad, although they can be used for either. But opposing forces like magnets. When you are making a decision, you fight a battle of good and evil. That struggle within you are two warriors evenly matched, grappling to overcome one another. One male, the other female. All of these two things are affecting your heart center. Your heart center is where your inner heart, where the two opposing forces meet. Now, talking about the heart centers, you learn that when you become a member of the ancient mystical order of Melchizedek. That's not going to be revealed here. This is the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, the Supreme Mathematics book, book 1. Okay, let me go on reading here. Oh, that is what is meant in religion when it says that you have guardian angels on both sides of you. One telling you what is agreeable and one that is coercing you to do disagreeable. This is the struggle and war that is constantly raging within. They are opposing forces inside of you. The beings that created you have encoded all these things in your genes. Vividness, I know exactly what I want, where vagueness is just the opposite. The weaker and lower side of human beings leans towards being vague. Pause. Not only does it lead toward being vague, it can also be used as deception. And one way to defeat deception is by the process of elimination. Ruakhtah, what's the process of elimination? Is to ask questions, right? They say something, you take what they say and you put it in the form of a question to extract more output, right? Okay, let's keep going. The divine and supreme side encoded within them is leaning toward being vivid, concise, precise, and exact. We, on the other hand, in our true form, are born outside ourselves, 180 degrees female, as fraternal twins, one agreeable and one disagreeable. So truth is vivid and lies are vague. To be good is vivid, to be evil is vague. This is just one level of human growth. If you log the stages of maturity of how men and women change to certain likes and dislikes, each female has male in them and each male has female in them. First stages in the womb, there is no difference until they leave the state of dependence and become independent. If you watch this transformation when children go from birth to ages 1 through 5 to 5 through 7 to 7 through 14, then changes from 14 to 18. This is encoded in human genes. This is invoked to go off in the human psyche, soul, essence, mind, where hormones like estrogen in the female and testosterone in the male are secreted, released. These are the physical reactions that have an effect on the human psyche. All right, there's actually more, but I want to get to another part. Actually, the genes. Hold up. This is my first Facebook Live actually doing this show, so if anybody's watching at all, I don't think I'm going to be able to read the live chat. If there's anything at all, I'll be surprised if there's anything at all because I didn't announce this. I'm just trying it out for the show. So, very important information for us as human beings, for us to understand how we work. And I'm trying to get to another part. These defects affect the body and the brain in a certain way. Okay, he starts talking about the human brain. Hold on. It goes in sequential order, even though I'm trying to skip around. He talks about chromosomes, enzymes. You have genes that go. Okay. This part right here, the question is, what is genetics? I don't want to go through all of this, but I should. I'm going to go ahead and read this. Genetics. For all the Nuwabians out there and all the Moors out there. So the question is, what is genetics? Answer. Genetics is the branch of biology that deals with heredity. The word genetics is a combining form meaning pertaining to genesis or generation. Genesis itself means the origin of a thing or bringing about to a new or the formation. The word genetics consists of the prefix gen, meaning something produced, or gene, meaning an agent transmitted from parent to offspring, and the suffix etics, meaning pertaining to a nature of a thing. Now, those are all Greek words. They're not even English words, I guess. I don't know how that happened. I think it's the influence from the Greeks. But like in the Bible, Genesis is talking about, I think it would be talking about the origination of human beings. right? Or at least the telling of the origination of a human being, right? And then gen, G-E-N, means something produce, right? So we're talking about a source of a thing, and this source, whatever it is producing more things. You could look at it like a cell. A cell duplicates itself millions and billions of times to form organs in your body. It forms organs in the body, right? Now, let the master teacher tell it. He's gonna tell it better than I can. The genes themselves are complex chemical packets. They are part of a large deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, molecules found in the nuclei of cells. By influencing the interaction of the cells, the genes direct the formation of tissues that are formed to build the different organs and structure of the body in general. He said the genes are directors for the cells to form organs of the body, right? So they're managing the whole thing. The genes are telling these cells, build this organ, your lung, your heart, your eyes, your brain. It's the genes that hold the code for the instructions to do that. Okay? All right. DNA molecules contain the code for the production of chemicals known as enzymes. You know, enzymes also break down food in your stomach. The genes, as active parts of DNA molecules, contain the code for the reproduction for various substances the cell needs if they are to live and grow. Thus, by controlling enzymes and somehow influencing the interaction of the cells, the genes direct the formation of tissues that are formed to build different organs and structure of the body. Right? And I don't know if you guys could see it, but there's a chromosome right there in that little diagram. All right. Genes are responsible for almost all the features that make you look different from anybody else. The composition of your body organs are governed by your gene structure. Hair, skin, eye color, blood type, and intelligence in the nucleus of every cell in your body. There are at least 1 million genes. Altogether, they do much to decide what you will look like and how you will think. It is in the 4th generation of animals and plants that the recessive traits show up. So he pinpointed it to the specific generations that recessive traits show up. You have genes that govern traits called alleles. The trait that manifests itself is called dominant. The trait that hides or masks itself is called recessive. And you know that has to be divine design. Why would one gene or dominant trait in a gene manifest itself over and over again, right, through generations, and the recessive gene, right, will hide itself? Why is it trying to hide itself? And you remember the master teacher said once in a class that we got microscopes so we can magnify 1,000, 10,000 times, right? And we could look at basically things that are like atom size. Now, when he talks about cells, I forgot what video it was. He said, are we studying the cells or is the cell studying us, right? Because you know the cell also has genes and it is a stimuli, meaning it reacts, it thinks, it moves, right? Every cell in your body thinks, moves, it has a system, right? So there goes the atheist right there, right? The atheist lost. That put the atheist right out the water, right? So that's a very puzzling question for Nuwabians, right? Are we studying the cell, or is the cell instructing us to make a machine so it can study us, right? Way better than artificial intelligence. Okay. For those still watching, well, my podcast show, I got my listeners, but for the folks on Facebook Live, we're going to keep going on here. So the next question someone asked, you know, the master teacher does question and answer sessions. It's not that I go in and just preach and preach and preach like a Christian preacher. You know, we would get to ask questions, right? That's what made the master teacher so amazing. So the next question is, what does this mean? Right? One of the students says, what does this all mean? We're puzzled. So much information. Where does this take us to? Master teacher answers this right here. Pick up the man from Planet RIZQ. You will not regret it. Answer. This means you are a subtotal of your experiences, meaning whatever you take in, whatever you are exposed to, whatever afflicts you physically, helps to make your personality, which can become a part of your DNA and your genetic coding. So whatever you go through in life, your environment, who you talk to, who you're influenced by, what you see on TV, what you see on the billboard, commercials, whatever, it all becomes part of your personality. That's why the devil tries to get to your kids first. The adults, he might have already got the adults, but the adults have more of a defense mechanism. You know, there's certain things adults are going to listen to and certain things they not. That's just the way it is. But kids are wide open. They're wide open to the earth, wide open to existence. You know, they're trying to learn things. They're taking things in. You know, they watch their parents. They emulate their parents, you know, as they form their personality, vocabulary, social skills. That's why the devil wants them to be gay, cut off their penis like Dwayne Wade. He needs to be slapped. You know, at Target actually had some kind of gay Satanist clothes for children, and people called it out. Target took it away right away, but Target got an answer for that. The CEO got an answer to the Lord for that one. I don't think he's going to heaven, y'all. I don't think he's going to heaven. If somebody remembers that, put a comment in there. If somebody, that happened like 2 months ago, and I will never shop at Target again. That is totally disgusting. All right. So let me continue reading here, and I think we're going to cut it after this. Let's see. Physically. Okay. It can be passed on to the child. So if the mother, it says if the mother has a physical affliction, it can be passed on to the child. Much like any other disease, such as diabetes, arthritis, sickle cell anemia. My father had sickle cell anemia pretty bad. I know Prodigy from Mobb Deep had it. He had it worse than my father, bro. That you got to read Prodigy's book. It's the brother was strong-willed, most definitely. And I remember rubbing my dad's body down with a Tiger Balm sometimes. But as he got older, he ate better and treated his body better. He said he didn't have any symptoms at all. So, much like any other disease like diabetes, arthritis, sickle cell anemia, cancer, or mental instability or physical disabilities, muscular dystrophy, or multiple sclerosis. These examples are understood to be inherited traits from your genetics. But what about those things that are from external influence? For instance, if a football player breaks his leg, that break can become a part of his genetics. Then, if he has a child by someone, that trait can be passed on to that child and become part of the child's genetics. So, even though the child will not be born with a broken leg, the child's leg will be weak in that spot. This is why it's very important that you watch what you ingest while carrying a child in the womb. This just doesn't apply to food, which would cause physical defects if the diet is poor, but what is also ingested mentally, which give thought forms to the child that affect the way he thinks and feels, and of course, your emotional state. Once the child is 3 to 4 months, he can hear outside influences as well, and is affected not only by the sounds she may hear, but also the vibrations can be disturbing to the unborn child. Accordingly, if someone in your family was greedy for materialistic things, it can turn up in the child as gluttony, which is another form of greed for something, or they can also inherit things like the intellect of the parent. The intelligence of the child doesn't have to come from the IQ level of his parents. Excuse me. You must also take into consideration what the parents were doing mentally when the child was conceived. Where and the conditions that the child was conceived in are just as important. If the parents were both working at jobs that made them use brain power than brawn, the child is more likely to come out with a higher level of intelligence. I say this because people that are considered extremely intelligent don't always have intelligent children. Why not? Let's suppose this couple was working in a bank using calculations that definitely work the brain. During the conception of their first child, however, during the conception of the second child, the wife takes off to stay at home. That child can come out less intelligent because the brain of the mother is not being utilized as much as before. Wow. Similarly, have you ever noticed that the child born to older couples are usually smarter and learn faster than the child that is born to a younger couple? That is because as you get older, you become wise. I don't mean old. You inherit wisdom. Your soul ages. This is what is meant when you hear the saying, old people's children are smarter. When I say the soul ages, I don't mean to imply that it becomes old as the body of a person. What I mean is that it is grown up, a nourished elder by space and time, wisdom and intellect. A soul that overstands by way of its inner heart. Some say the temple of the human soul is built by 3 master masons personifying wisdom, love, and service. Service is the vehicle by which one is able to travel. Love is the zeal and speed one travels, but the wisdom is the way one travels. Wisdom makes you perceptive of the source of all things. It raises your intellect intuitively so that you may appreciate all things and ultimately come to know yourself. In old age, you receive the benefits of a graduate if you were an intuitive student. In some cases, if the father is older and mother is younger and is intelligent, then that child has an equal combination. All right. I think we're going to end the show right there. This is show 50. Brother Ruakhtah Hero Caillou. If you're on the podcast, the music playing in the background, that's a beat by Sinmut the Architect, Nuwabian beat maker, MC extraordinaire. And for the people on Facebook, I'm going to bid y'all good night. Wadu. I did have a couple people listening on Facebook. That's cool. We're gonna have to do more of that. You know what I mean? All right, that ends the Facebook broadcast, and now we're gonna end the podcast show here. Wadu.